He had been away for so long. Decades of war, bloodshed, and sacrifice had taken their toll on him. He had seen things that no human should ever witness, and done things that no human should ever do. He had fought for the glory of the Emperor and for the survival of his species. He had lost countless friends and comrades and gained many scars on his body and mind, and of course medals that he wonders if he only got them because everyone else was dead. He was a veteran of the Astra Militarum, the hammer of the Emperor, and he was finally going home. His name was Marcus Valerius, and he was born on the planet of Aquila, a verdant world of rolling hills, lush forests, and clear rivers. He had grown up in a small village, where he had learned to hunt, fish, and farm. He had a loving family, a beautiful wife, and a son he had never met. He had enlisted in the Imperial Guard when he was 18, following the tradition of his ancestors, who had served the Imperium since the Great Crusade. He had been proud to wear the uniform of the Aquila Eagles, the elite regiment of his homeworld. He had fought in many battles across the galaxy, facing enemies of all kinds: orcs, tyrannids, chaos, Eldar, Necrons, Tau. As the service to the Emperor always makes you face the terrors that threat mankind, he had survived horrors that would have broken lesser men. He had witnessed the valor and heroism of his fellow Guardsmen and the wrath and might of the Space Marines. He had earned the respect and admiration of his superiors and the loyalty and friendship of his subordinates, even as he had risen through the ranks, from a simple trooper to a seasoned sergeant. He had led his squad through fire and fury, always with courage and honor. He had also paid a heavy price. He had seen his friends die in his arms, torn apart by claws, blades, or bullets. He had buried his brothers in arms in shallow graves, marked by their dog tags or helmets. He had mourned his fallen comrades in silence, knowing that there was no time for grief in war. He had suffered wounds that would have killed him, if not for the skill of the medics and the grace of the Emperor. He had lost his left eye to a shrapnel blast, his right arm to a power sword, and his left leg to a mine. He had replaced them with bionic implants, which gave him strength and resilience, but also reminded him of his losses. He had also missed his home. He had longed for the sight of the green hills, the smell of the fresh air, and the sound of the birds. He had dreamed of his wife's smile, his son's laugh, and his family's embrace. He had written letters to them whenever he could, telling them of his adventures and achievements, but also expressing his love and longing. He had received letters from them as well, telling him of their lives and hopes, but also urging him to come back soon. He had cherished every word they wrote, keeping them close to his heart. He had finally earned his discharge after 30 years of service. He had been awarded with honors and commendations for his deeds and merits. He had been given a generous pension and a plot of land on his homeworld. He had been thanked and praised by his superiors and peers for his loyalty and dedication. He had been hailed as a hero by the Imperium. He was on board a transport ship that was taking him back to Aquila. He was sitting in his cabin, looking at a hollow picture of his wife and son. They were smiling at him, as if they were waiting for him to join them. His wife was holding their son in her arms. He was now 10 years old, almost as tall as her. He looked just like him when he was young. Blonde hair, blue eyes, strong features. He wondered what they were doing now, what they would say when they saw him again. He felt a surge of emotion as he gazed at their faces. He felt joy at the prospect of seeing them again after so long. He felt sorrow for missing so much of their lives while he was away. He felt guilt for leaving them alone while he was fighting wars that were not theirs. He felt fear that they would not recognize him or love him as they did before. He shook off these doubts and smiled back at them. They were his family, his everything. They would understand him and accept him as he was. They would welcome him home with open arms and warm hearts. He put away the hollow picture and got up from his seat. He grabbed his duffel bag and slung it over his shoulder. It contained all his belongings, his uniform, his medals, his weapons, his letters. It was all he had left from his life as a soldier. He walked out of his cabin and headed towards the docking bay. The ship was about to land on Aquila. He could see the planet through the viewport. It was a beautiful sight, a green and blue jewel in the blackness of space. He felt a surge of nostalgia and excitement as he recognized the familiar landmarks, the mountains, the lakes, the cities. He was almost home. He reached the docking bay and joined the other passengers. They were mostly civilians, traders, pilgrims, tourists. They looked at him with curiosity and awe, noticing his bionic limbs and his Aquila Eagles insignia. They whispered among themselves, wondering who he was and what he had done. He ignored them and waited for the ship to land. The ship touched down on a large spaceport near the capital city of Aquila Prime. He felt a jolt as the landing gear hit the ground. He heard a voice over the intercom announcing their arrival and giving instructions. He followed the crowd towards the exit ramp, eager to get off the ship. He stepped out of the ship and felt the sun on his face. He breathed in the fresh air and smiled. He was home. He looked around and saw a bustling scene of activity. The spaceport was crowded with people and vehicles, coming and going in all directions. He saw banners and flags of the Imperium and Aquila fluttering in the wind. He heard noises and voices of all kinds, speaking in his native tongue. He felt a pang of nostalgia and disorientation as he realized how much things had changed since he left. The spaceport was bigger and busier than he remembered. The people were dressed in different styles and fashions than he was used to. The vehicles were sleeker and faster than he had ever seen. He felt like a stranger in his own land. He shook off these feelings and focused on his goal. He had to find a way to get to his village, where his family was waiting for him. He had to see them again after so long. He walked towards the nearest terminal, where he could get information and transportation. He pushed his way through the crowd, ignoring the stares and whispers of the people around him. He reached the terminal and approached a kiosk. He saw a screen with a friendly face and a welcoming message. "Welcome to Aquila Prime Spaceport. How may I help you?" He touched the screen and spoke. "I need to get to Vesperia Village." The screen blinked and searched for his destination. Vesperia Village? That's a small town in the countryside, about 200 kilometers from here. Yes, that's where I'm from. The screen blinked again and displayed some options. You have 3 choices. You can take a shuttle bus, which will cost you 50 credits and take you about 3 hours. You can take a maglev train, which will cost you 100 credits and take you about 1 hour. Or you can take a flyer taxi, which will cost you 200 credits and take you about 15 minutes. He looked at the options and decided quickly. "I'll take the flyer taxi." The screen blinked again and confirmed his choice. "Very well. Please proceed to Bay 17, where your flyer taxi is waiting for you. Have a nice trip." He thanked the screen and walked towards Bay 17. He saw a small vehicle with wings and propellers, painted yellow and black. It had a sign that said Flyer Taxi on its side. He got in the vehicle and saw a driver sitting in the front seat. He was a young man with dark hair and brown eyes. He smiled at him and greeted him. "Hello, sir. Welcome to Flyer Taxi. Where are you headed?" "Vesperia Village." "Vesperia Village? That's a nice place. I've been there once or twice. What's your name?" "Marcus Valerius." "Marcus Valerius? That's a famous name around here. Are you related to him?" "Him? Who was he talking about?" "Yes, I am him." The driver's eyes widened in surprise and admiration. "You are him? You are Marcus Valerius, the hero of Aquila?" He felt confused and curious. "The hero of Aquila? What do you mean?" The driver looked at him as if he was joking. You don't know? You don't know what you did?" "What did I do?" The driver shook his head in disbelief. "You saved our planet, sir. You saved us from invasion." "Invasion? What invasion? What invasion?" The driver started the vehicle and took off from the ground. "The Orc invasion, sir. The biggest one we've ever seen. It happened 2 years ago." 2 years ago? He had been away for 30 years. "What are you talking about?" The driver explained as he flew towards his destination. "It was 2 years ago, sir. A massive Orc fleet appeared in our system, out of nowhere. They came in thousands of ships, big and ugly ones. They attacked our planet with everything they had. Guns, bombs, rockets. They wanted to loot and destroy everything in their path. They were unstoppable, sir. No one could stop them." He felt a chill as he listened to the driver's words. He remembered the Orcs, the savage and brutal aliens that he had fought many times before. He remembered their green skin, their tusks, their crude weapons. He remembered their war cries, their laughter, their bloodlust. He hated them with every fiber of his being. He asked the driver, "What did the Imperium do? What did the Astra Militarum do?" The driver shook his head sadly. "They did what they could, sir. They sent reinforcements as soon as they could. But they were too late, sir. Too late. The Orcs had already landed on our planet and started their rampage. They killed millions of people, sir. Millions. They burned our cities, our farms, our forests. They slaughtered our animals, our plants, our children. They defiled our temples, our monuments, our graves. They turned our world into a hellhole, sir. A hellhole. He felt a surge of anger and grief as he heard the driver's words. He imagined the horror and pain that his people had suffered at the hands of the orcs. He imagined the destruction and desecration that his world had endured under their onslaught. He felt a tear roll down his cheek. He asked the driver, "Where was I? Where was I when this happened?" The driver looked at him with admiration and gratitude. "You were here, sir. You were here when this happened. You were the one who saved us." He felt a shock as he heard the driver's words. He looked at him with disbelief and confusion. "What do you mean? How did I save you?" The driver smiled and pointed at his duffel bag. "Your weapons, sir! Your weapons saved us!" He looked at his duffel bag and saw his weapons, his laser gun, his chainsword, his grenades. He had used them for 30 years, in countless battles across the galaxy. He had kept them as souvenirs of his service, as reminders of his duty. He asked the driver, "What do you mean? How did my weapons save you?" The driver explained as he flew closer to his destination. "It was a miracle, sir. A miracle from the Emperor himself. Your weapons were in a cargo ship that was on its way to Aquila Prime spaceport 2 years ago. It was part of a convoy that was bringing supplies and reinforcements to our planet. But it was attacked by the orcs in orbit. The ship was hit by a rocket and exploded in mid-air. But your weapons survived, sir. Your weapons survived and fell from the sky." He felt a jolt as he heard the driver's words. He remembered the cargo ship that had transported his weapons from his last posting to his home world. It was a large and sturdy vessel, with a crew of loyal and brave men and women. He had thanked them for their service and wished them good luck before he left them. He asked the driver, "What happened then? What happened to my weapons?" The driver explained as he flew over his village. "Your weapons fell from the sky like meteors, sir. They landed all over our planet, in random places and times. But they always landed where they were needed most, sir, where they could make a difference, where they could save lives." He felt a wonder as he heard the driver's words. He looked out of the window and saw his village below him. It was a small and peaceful place, surrounded by fields and trees. He saw people working and playing, smiling and laughing. He saw his home, a cozy cottage with a garden and a fence. He asked the driver, "How did my weapons save lives? How did they make a difference?" The driver explained as he landed near his home. "Your weapons saved lives by killing orcs, sir. Killing lots of orcs. Whenever an orc horde attacked a town or a village or a farm or a temple or anything else that mattered to us, your weapons would appear out of nowhere and start shooting or slashing or exploding them to bits. Your weapons would fight on their own, sir. On their own. They would move and aim and fire and reload and charge without anyone controlling them or commanding them or even touching them. They would act like they had a mind of their own, sir. A mind of your own." He felt awe as he heard the driver's words. He looked out of the window and saw his weapons lying on the ground near his home. He saw his laser gun, his chainsword, his grenades. They were covered in blood and dirt, but still intact and functional. They looked like they had just finished a battle. He asked the driver, "How is this possible? How can my weapons fight on their own?" The driver shrugged and smiled. "I don't know, sir. I don't know how or why this happened. But I do know that it was a miracle, sir. A miracle from the Emperor himself. He must have blessed your weapons with his power and his will, sir. He must have chosen you as his instrument, sir. His instrument to save us from the orcs." He felt a humbleness as he heard the driver's words. He looked at his weapons and felt a connection with them. He felt like they were part of him, part of his soul. He felt like they had shared his experiences, his memories, his emotions. He felt like they had fought for him, for his family, for his world. He asked the driver, "What happened to the orcs? What happened to the invasion?" The driver explained as he opened the door for him. "Your weapons turned the tide of the war, sir. They inspired us to fight back, to resist, to survive. They gave us hope, sir. Hope that we could win, that we could live, that we could be free. They helped us hold the line, sir. Hold the line until the Astra Militarum arrived and drove the orcs away. They saved our planet, sir. They saved our planet." He felt a relief as he heard the driver's words. He got out of the vehicle and thanked him for his service and his story. He paid him with some of his credits and wished him good luck. He walked towards his home and saw his family waiting for him at the door. He saw his wife, who looked older but still beautiful. He saw his son, who looked just like him but younger. He saw their smiles, their tears, their love. They ran towards him and hugged him tightly. They welcomed him home with open arms and warm hearts. He felt a happiness as he embraced them back. He kissed his wife and told her how much he missed her and loved her. He hugged his son and told him how proud he was of him and how much he wanted to know him. They cried and laughed together, sharing their joy and sorrow. They took him inside their home and showed him around. They told him what had happened to them and their village while he was away. They told him how they had survived the orc invasion thanks to his weapons. They told him how they had prayed for him every day and night. They thanked him for being their hero. He felt a gratitude as he listened to them and looked at them. He thanked them for being his family. He felt a peace as he realized that he was finally home. He felt a twist as he remembered that this was not real. This was not real. This was a simulation. Created by foul Necrons, creatures of steel and malice that roam the stars. Marcus woke up in a pod where he still was wearing his uniform, but his body was filled with cables. He realized what happened. They had imprisoned him in his mind, giving him paradise in a fake reality. And when he tried to pull the cables, a small flying drone zapped him and put him back to sleep. Marcus had returned, once again.